Hi, today we are going to learn about basic essay structure, and I'm going to take you through the essay writing process. You might be asked to write an expository, aka informative essay, but you might also be asked to write an argumentative essay. I will give information about the differences you will work with within the basic essay structure presentation. So for either type of essay, you need to first read and receive the information. You have to engage with the text to understand its meaning and significance. I'm going to give you an example from an article and a prompt that comes from the New York Times. However, I'm going to actually use a Word document in order to show you that. So this is me reading the prompt. As the generation who grew up with social media, a reflection on narcissism is of critical importance to teenagers. So far we just have information about narcissism, but we do not yet have the question, what are the psychological, and ethical implications of constant engagement with or obsession over social media? So now we got to think about, what is it asking us? It's asking us, we can rewrite this in our own words. If I were to rewrite this in my own words, I would probably say, how are we affected in our minds psychologically by constantly engaging with social media? What is it doing? And if there's an obsession over social media, how is it affecting us? And are there ethical implications? Is it ethically right? Is it right or is it wrong? How does it change our relationship with others and how we see ourselves? So then we want to know about change in relationships with others, but also how we see ourselves. So we need to note these different things that we're going to be taking notes on. So we're going to be looking for psychological and ethical implications of using social media, as well as how it changes our relationships with others and how we see ourselves. So this is more of a personal argumentative essay that we're writing. No, actually, this would be an expository and informative essay. We're just looking for the psychological and ethical implications. Constant engagement with or obsession over social media. What does the research tell us? Or what can we find out from, here's an article that we're given. So then we're going to want to mark, annotate the text. So this is reading and receiving. We have to annotate while we're reading and receiving information. So I'm just going to read a little bit and tell you what I would mark. My teenage son recently informed me that there is an internet quiz to test oneself for narcissism. His friend had just taken it. How did it turn out, I asked. He says he did great. My son responded, he got the maximum score, meaning that he was quite narcissistic. When I was a child, no one outside the mental health profession talked about narcissism. People were more concerned with inadequate self-esteem. So if we look at the past, that people were more concerned with inadequate self-esteem, this might be something that we're interested in, which at the time was believed to lurk behind nearly every difficulty. Like so many excesses of the 1970s, the self-love cult spun out of control and is now rampaging through our culture like Godzilla through Tokyo. So now self-love is a big deal. And that's what it stems from, what's going on today, supposedly, according to the person who's writing this article. And we're marking that because this is about narcissism and the psychology of it, possibly the ethical implications later. So now we see that there's a study, and we know we can definitely use this in our evidence. A 2010 study in the journal Social, psychological, and personality science found that the percentage of college students exhibiting narcissistic personality traits based on their scores on the Narcissistic Personality Inventory, a widely used diagnostic test, has increased by more than half since the 1980s to 30%. And the people who wrote this article show that narcissism has increased as quickly as obesity since the 1980s. So we would continue to read like that, marking anything that would stand out to help us answer this prompt. So that is just my example of reading and receiving. Now we can go to the next part of the presentation. So categorization or organizing is what is important now. So we need to organize the information into 3 distinct categories. Okay? I'm going to give you an example of me doing that with a Word document that we just marked. So what would I do? Well, as I'm reading, I'll read this first thing, 1. I'd give it a 1. Inadequate self-esteem, and I would give it a note. Psychology, historical, issue. I would keep on. It says self-love cult. This is something different. So I'll give it a 2. It is still a historical issue, but it's self-love. Became really big at the time. So I see here social psychology and personality science, if there is a study, has increased that. Oh, okay. So this is today. So this is new. Today, narcissistic people. So my brain already can see the difference between inadequate self-esteem and the narcissism that that exists today. Okay, so if I keep going, if I find more about the past, I will call that 1. If I find more about self-love, I'll call that 2. If I find more about narcissistic personality traits, I'll call that 3. But if I discover that there's not as, and then I could even have a category 4 or 5, it doesn't matter in the end. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to allow my mind to see how it categorizes everything on its own. Okay, so you might be asked to write an expository text. What you can do is once you got all your categories, you can break them down to 3. And so then you'll put it here and you'll write your evidence underneath so that you can clearly see what you've organized and what categories you come up with. Okay? Or if you are asked to write an argumentative essay, you'll leave your categories and then you'll read through them until you say, what 2 claims can I make for my argument? What do I believe? Or you can decide that after you read. For example, if it was an argumentative essay on does narcissism affect our society today, and is it a bad thing? And you think it's a terrible thing. So what 2 claims can you have from your text to prove that it is actually a terrible thing? But if you believe that it's a good thing that people are becoming more narcissistic because self-esteem was a problem in the past, then you will find 2 claims showing that it is a good thing. And then you'll have a counterclaim. And you'll use your categories to help you get that evidence. And so it'll be a little bit different. So with an expository, you can just keep breaking it down and then condense it into 3 categories and then just make those claims because you're informing. If it is an argumentative, you look at everything and you decide where you stand, and then you make 2 claims and 1 counterclaim. Okay, so the next thing that we do after we've created these categories is that we create our statements. And I like for you to use the formula concrete detail, active verb, and commentary on concrete detail. So I'm going to use the 3 categories that I have already, that I've got now for an expository, and then show you me doing that. So I've got low self-esteem in the 70s. And then I've got my evidence that I can put down for that. Which you'll have a lot more evidence because you'll go through the whole article. Okay? And it's good to say where the evidence comes from if you have more than one article and you need to tell your... And then I have this self-love. There's my evidence. Well, I got to copy it. My evidence of that. And then I have evidence that narcissism is running rampage with all of this. And there I have a lot more, so probably if I kept going, my 3 categories would just be about narcissism and not have anything to do with self-love. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll create statements for each one. People are more concerned. This is not much to go with, but I want to have a concrete detail. Which at the time was believed to lurk behind nearly every difficulty. Low self-esteem. I want to make my concrete detail. And then I'll find the active verb. Okay. I decided that I want to put people believe that low self-esteem affected most people in the 70s. Self-love, I have to look at my evidence to see what can I... So you have to look at the evidence and see what can I say about it. You don't look at the evidence and then say, what do I want to say? Because sometimes you just end up saying things that has nothing to do with the text. So you want to look at it and see, what can I say? So like so many excesses of the 1970s, the self-love cult spun out of control and is now rampaging through our culture like Godzilla through Tokyo. Okay. self-love, self-love information acted as the answer to low self-esteem in the 70s. We know this from both of these pieces of evidence, actually. Just this piece of evidence doesn't tell us that. We know it's in the 70s, but we don't know why. Well, this was the effect of this. So there we have two statements. And then narcissism today, got to go through the process again, and we've got to look at all the evidence. Okay. Studies show an increase in narcissistic traits, among people of today. There we go. We've got three statements for our three categories. That means we have three topic sentences for each one of our body paragraphs. So, and we've also got all of our evidence. So, and it didn't take that much effort. Okay? So that's what we just did. We broke it down to three. Once we've done that, we need to synthesize our statements into one to create a thesis statement, which can be quite difficult. So let's get our Word document. We want to look at our statements right beside each other. I'm going to show you me doing that. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put this one underneath. And so whenever I do it, it's going to be quite quick. It's going to be pretty fast, but this can take a lot of time if you're just starting to practice it. So let's do it. Okay. So whenever I look at this, I understand that these two go together and that this one is today. So I would say that I could start out by saying low self-esteem in the 70s has led to has affected young people okay. I don't like that, so I'm going to start over. Although the 70s showed although people suffered from low self-esteem in the 70s, leading to self-love more leading to the psychology of self-love narcissism okay, is one of the outcomes connected to that and today's social media. There we go. So then I end up with a thesis statement. Let's see what happens after that. So I synthesize those statements to create my thesis statement, and basically my outline is done. So since my outline is done, the only thing I have to do is basically plug it in. So if I look at what I got here, I have my, let's see, although people suffer from low self-esteem, that's that one. So it's going to come first. If it didn't come first, my thesis statement. So there's my statement. I put it right here in the body. Paste. And then I have all of my, evidence for that here. I can just stick that directly under it. And then I have my next statement. I can put that right here. Should have a B. And then I also have my evidence for my essay. All of it's ready just because I read and received, categorized, and created statements. It's all ready. My entire essay is ready. I'm just fixing this small thing to make sure that, yep, didn't mean to do that. And then I have my third statement available to me. There it is. And I have all the evidence that goes with that because I read and received it, I marked it, and I categorized it. Will it be this fast for you? No, it will not. First of all, I didn't read the whole article, and I just pulled out what I could get. And then the thesis statement I've also created. Where did I create that thesis statement? There it is. I can put it up here where the thesis goes. There's my outline. The only thing I have left to do is to write the actual essay. And I just look at this and write it. Okay? So let me get to the part where I write the actual essay. It's going to take me a second to get back to the, there it is. Wait a second. Where is the, okay, here we go. So we've created our outline. That's where we are, okay? Now it's time to write the essay. So we need to write the introduction. We need to introduce the essay with a compelling opening statement. I'm going to bring that overall to you. So you're going to have a compelling opening statement or just a broad opening statement. A broad opening statement that I might write for my essay. Let me just make this small again and get this Word document up again. So I'll look at, I've got my thesis statement. What is it going to be about? What is my summary of this, of my people believe that low self-esteem. Okay, so I see what I'm going to have in my body. So overall, narcissism has become, keep me spelling narcissism, has become common in our new world of technology. Social media, etc. That's a very broad topic sentence. And then I'm going to summarize what's to come. There was a time when low self-esteem affected the average person. The psychology of self-love became prominent or important. However, this has changed with the emergent. This psychology of self-love, along with the emergence of social media, with this psychology along with the emergence of social media, narcissism has taken the place of low self-esteem. And then after you write a summary of what's to come, you can just plug in your thesis statement. And then I end it with an introduction. My introduction is, narcissism has become common in our new world of technology. There was a time when low self-esteem affected the average person. The psychology of self-love became prominent. With this psychology, along with the emergence of social media, narcissism has taken the place of low self-esteem. Although people suffered from low self-esteem in the 70s, leading to the psychology of self-love, narcissism is one of the outcomes connected to that and today's social media. So Basically, I've now summarized my points, I've limited my words, and I've used my thesis statement as the closing sentence. After that, I need to write my body paragraphs. With my body paragraphs, you're going to use your first statement as your topic sentence. Your thesis has answered the question. Since you have synthesized all statements in your thesis statement, this statement is a part of the answer to your question, the beginning of ACECECS. Answer with a statement that you have already made. Cite your evidence from the text for this answer, and then explain how that evidence shows your answer to be valid. Cite your next piece of evidence, explain how that evidence validates your answer to be correct, and then summarize what's been said in one simple concluding sentence to close up your body paragraph. Repeat this with the other two statements and evidence to create your last two body paragraphs. So I'm going to do one body paragraph for you, not all three, and I will only do a sets. I will do answer, cite, and explain, and summarize. So my first statement, I've got it all here, so I can just copy it. So I hope that you notice that I'm indenting. People believe that low self-esteem affected most people in the 70s. And here's my evidence. People were more concerned with inadequate low self-esteem, which at the time was believed to lurk behind nearly every difficulty. So we need the New York Times article because we need to know who wrote this. Catherine Schulten. According to Catherine Schulten, we need to tell where we got who said what. Okay? So according to, I want it to be the same. There we go. Her name should not be. Okay. According to Catherine Schulten, there's her, it shouldn't be italicized. People were more concerned with inadequate self-esteem, which at the time, and I'm going to put at the time, in the 70s, at the time, was believed to lurk behind nearly, which, I'm going to have to say in the 70s so that we know when at the time is there, which in the 70s was believed to lurk behind nearly every difficulty. I want to make it work, so there. So people believe that low self-esteem affected most people in the 70s. According to Catherine Schulten, people were more concerned with inadequate self-esteem, which in the 70s lurked behind nearly every difficulty. Okay, this is not, I mean, you're probably going to have a couple of pieces of evidence for whatever it is that you had to say. Here we can see, then you explain it, that this author witnessed low self-esteem being the problem people faced in the 70s. I've cited it, I've explained it in the 70s. I would create transition to the next part now since I don't have a lot there. And the next part is self-love information acted as an answer to low self-esteem in the 70s. This led to a psychology.
This is a reminder. Evening ends.
This led to a psychology to improve in this area. So there, and then you just repeat this 2 more times so that you get your 3 body paragraphs. To get your 2 body paragraphs. Then we would have completed the body. The next thing that you need to do is your conclusion. So you're going to restate your thesis statement but use different words. You're going to write an enlightened summary of what's to come. This means that you give more than what you gave in the introduction in the summary, and then you close the essay with a broad topic sentence. So let me bring this up for you and do that for you. So basically, I'm going to write an upside down introduction. So I'm just going to look at my introduction and write it. Obviously, the low self-esteem of the 70s does not continue in the same form today. Instead, with the revolution of self-love and the onset of social media, narcissism has taken its place. So my thesis statement was, although people suffered from low self-esteem, let me just make sure that you can see this. Although people suffered from low self-esteem in the 70s leading to the psychology of self-love, narcissism is one of the outcomes connected to that in today's social media. So I have rewritten it as, Obviously, the low self-esteem of the 70s does not continue in the same form today. Instead, with the revolution of self-love and the onset of social media, narcissism is taking its place. And then now I've got to write my enlightening summary, but I haven't finished the essay, so that's kind of difficult because I'm going to say more that was in the body, but I'll just do a quick summary here. We can see that through the eyes of Schulten, narcissism is affecting most people today. You say a little more and then you close it with a broad topic sentence, closing sentence, and you have completed the conclusion. So let's look at the next thing. So you restate your thesis statement but use different words. Write an enlightened summary of what's been said. This means that you give more than what you gave in your introduction in the summary, and close the essay with a broad topic sentence. And that concludes what you need to do in order to go through the essay writing process. Thank you.